Hey, this is Brian Slagle from Metal Blade Records. I had the great opportunity to hang out with Lars and James from Metallica to talk about the record Kill 'Em All, which is now its 25th anniversary, which is really a phenomenal record, a phenomenal feat that it's lasted this long and still doing so well. So you get to see me talk to them about all the early days, about them going to New York, recording the record, touring with Raven, all sorts of good stuff. So check it out. It's a good thing. So it's the 25th anniversary of Kill 'Em All, and we're hanging out with Mr. James Hetfield, who had something to do with that record. I'm not sure.
I think I was there.
I think you were there. So, 25 years later, first record, obviously, which I think is a big, important step for any band. When you guys first started out, did you ever even think that you would get to a full-length first record?
Well, you know, we were just happy to get off of work and show up in Ron McGovney's garage and have a place to jam. I mean, that was enough. And then it becomes not enough, and you think, well, the next thing is you do a gig, and then the next thing is, oh, you write more songs and this and that, and you do the demo, and all of a sudden, you know, well, you get a song on someone's compilation record. You know, quality wasn't that important to us. It was the content, you know, and actually, you know, getting to that point of doing a record, you know, when we finally went out east, Johnny Z got us out east, you know, we drove the U-Haul all the way out there and got funds together for the record. You know, we were up in Rochester, New York, and, you know, we never been to New York, and all of a sudden we're, you know, recording a record out in the out there, and you know, making a record. We had done demos before. We kind of knew what we want. I knew what I wanted guitar wise and stuff, and but you always have, you know, you have dreams, man. You have visions of. I remember being at school writing, you know, I'm drawing up the band I'm gonna be in. I already know the name of the record. I know what it's gonna look like and all this stuff, and it's a dream that started to come true, you know, and I remember sitting down talking about the title, you know, Metal Up Your Ass was the title of the record, and we have the artwork, the toilet and the blade and all of this, and well, you can't have that, no one's going to sell it, and we got to come up with another title and all of that, but just all of the creative things that go around, you know, making a record. But yeah, I mean, we had the songs. We had been playing those songs in the clubs forever.
Kill 'Em All is basically, you know, the first, 10 songs that we wrote. We were pretty particular about, I remember very early on with James having, like, you know, what's the point of writing a song if it's not good enough to go on the record? So we were very kind of anal. But, like, every song, you know, so Kill 'Em All is literally the first 10 songs. It's not, there was 16 and 10 of them made it on the record. I think that the last two, there was the famous, you know, No Life Till Leather demo that had 7 songs on it. And I think that song 8 and 9 was No Remorse and Whiplash. Those were finished right around the time that I think Cliff joined the band. And we went and did a demo of those up in Walnut Creek, up in Northern California. And then, of course, the 10th song being the bass solo song. So by the time we went to San Francisco, I think that pretty much all the songs were done or very close to being done. It wasn't like we, you know, wrote. I mean, we were writing when we got to the East Coast, but those were the songs. That was Fight Fire and For Whom the Bell Tolls and whatever that ended up on the next record. So all the songs on Kill 'Em All were pretty much written. You know, we formed in the fall of '81. We started writing in, you know, after we learned all our Diamond Head covers and all the rest of it. We started writing kind of right in the spring of '82. So most of the songs were written in '82, and then the last two, like I said, No Remorse and Whiplash.
Seek and Destroy. I remember writing that in my little pickup truck when I'm working at the sticker factory in Whittier. You know, I'm listening to Diamond Head, you know, single note riffs, and it's like, hey, this is pretty catchy. Go over to Lars's place in Newport, and you know, in his dad's meditation room. We take all the mattresses and put them up against the wall, and we write "Seek and Destroy," and we're headbanging, through his house there, and so slowly started, writing songs. Some of the songs were things that I had before, like "Hit the Lights," or lyrics that were from other things. "No Remorse" was some other song. So really kind of, and I think the uniqueness of the writing of that record was, we're writing new music, but here's some old lyrics we're just going to shove in there, And so some of the phrasings are really kind of different, and, maybe not the way you would have written them back then, but they helped us write the music around it. And, but yeah, we had the songs. We'd been playing them in the clubs for a long time, so we were very well rehearsed. So when we went in to record them, there wasn't a lot of messing around time.
Early May, something like that. I think we went up to Rochester and started what's called Barrett Alley with the studio. But we were psyched. It was a cool studio. We felt pretty good, and also it wasn't like, as then has happened on every record since then. I mean, even Ride the Lightning, the next record a year later, we wrote 2 of the songs in the studio. Master Puppets, we wrote songs. I mean, we walked into Barrett Alley in May of '83 with all the songs just ready to go. I mean, it became about executing, and it became about capturing. It wasn't necessarily super sort of creative sessions. It's like, oh, what are we doing? And blah, blah. It was just like go in and fucking play and nail it,
When you got there, did you guys feel that you were ready to record, or did you feel you needed more time to play out? Like, what was the mindset when you got there and you were getting ready to record?
Well, I mean, there was one speed bump along the way.
Yeah, well,
was,
yeah. A little minor speed bump.
Yeah, minor speed bump there. Which that was really the first thing that had to be dealt with when we got there, because when we left San Francisco, everything was fine. When we got to New York 10 days later, things were less hunky-dory in the band, and obviously it was the first time that we had all lived together, shared, been sort of locked and sharing a very small amount of space, and we realized, unfortunately, that things were probably not going to work out with Dave. And literally, we walked into Johnny Z's place. We got to his house, and we all crashed on his couch, and blah, blah, blah. And we walked in, and basically the first thing was like, I just gotta tell you something. Hi, nice to meet you. How you doing? Nice family, nice kids. So, and Johnny Z was like, it was like, whoa, that was a big shock. So we dealt with that for the first couple of weeks, and then fortunately things worked out well with Kirk, and he got everything quickly and learned it quickly. We ended up living in Jamaica, Queens, in a kind of an old furniture warehouse. So basically, I think through the month of April, we were hanging in Jamaica, practicing, and working with Kirk, and then playing gigs on the weekends. And but you got to remember that, Johnny Z, God bless him. I mean, he didn't have. I don't mean this disrespectfully whatsoever. He didn't have a lot of experience in doing what he was doing, and so there was an element which we liked. I mean, it was appealing, the kind of make it up as you go along element. You know what I mean? It wasn't like there was a plan. It wasn't like, here's this and come out and you're going into the studio on this and this date, and here, it was very sort of haphazardly, just sort of like making it up as we were going along, because it was a new experience for all of us. And I think that was part of the reason that we really got on so well with him, was we were kind of in this together. You know, and it wasn't like him and us. It was like we're all doing this together, and we sort of believed in each other, and it was a pretty cool shared experience.
Yeah, we get into the studio recording. What I remember of the place, we were on different levels. I don't know if that's exactly accurate, but I remember not being able to see Lars while I'm playing, and that was a little frustrating. The drum room was somewhere else, and we're obviously used to being each other's faces. I remember going to we didn't know the producer. We didn't know anyone there. And we're looking at him, and the guy's, kind of clean cut. And we're going, oh, no. Does he really know what he's in for? Or does he know how to get the sounds we want, Because we had Mark Whittaker, the guy who was our early manager and place we lived at in El Cerrito. He was doing, engineering school, so he was helping with the sounds, and he helped with. There was a demo after the No Life to Leather that had Whiplash and like 3 other songs, and the sound was pretty darn good. And I remember driving around, and this guy Bob, who we had befriended up there, who was a complete nutcase. He was our shuttle service, He'd hang out. He'd take us to go get wings, or, go drinking or whatever. He was our ride around. I remember we're listening to stuff in his car going, A-Bing it with the old demo. That's our first experience with demoitis,
Yep.
It's like, oh my God, the guitars just, they don't have it, or the vocals, and kind of freaking out about it that maybe, this isn't the right guy. It's like, But the other thing I really remember, I had to go in, and we were, we're short on funds, and I had to go in and do vocals. I had, 2 days to do all the vocals, and I was probably the most hungover I'd ever been in my life. I woke up.
Perfect.
Yeah, I woke up. I think I'd smoked pot for the second time in my life or something too. I had woke up on the floor of the kitchen, and my head was resting on a wooden chair, and I remember Johnny Z being on the phone. You got to go in and do vocals today. It's like, fuck you. I'm not doing any vocals today. I'm going to throw up on the mic. It's like, what? You gotta. And I just completely hung up and just stayed. But I got all the vocals done, I guess, maybe in 1 or 2 days.
Well, how did you feel when it was finished and you heard the finished product at the end?
I was psyched. I thought that that the record obviously sounded good. It was a big thing about this Barrett Alley place had these really big rooms, so we thought the record was really nice and ambient and that whole thing, which of course was nothing compared to the Ride the Lightning record, which was really like next level up in terms of production. We're actually sitting, James and me, talking a couple days ago about how such a big thing back then, and you can probably remember that was production. Oh, we got to get, Chris to Sangaritas, or we got to do this, or Martin Birch. Ooh, it's a production. The sounds, it's like now you just fucking go in and play. And I mean, it's almost like you're trying to play it down now. You just want it to sound like garagey, and you don't want to fuck with it too much. Back then it was like, Def Leppard was on the radio every half hour. Ooh, listen to the kick drum. And, I remember sitting there being super psyched about the way it sounded, and and obviously it was also a big step up from the demos in terms of sound and so on. And I remember the first time we held the record, it was down in Jersey, right before the Raven tour started, early mid July. It was like, fuck! It was like, you're holding a record, your own record, with the word Metallica. That was a pretty big moment.
Boy, I listen back to those vocals and go, who is that?
Yeah.
Who is that? Who is she? I mean, some of his high screaming stuff. It's like, wow. And whether my balls hadn't dropped completely by then, or I don't know, but when you're first start, I was really thrown into the singing part. I wanted to be a singer really bad growing up. My poster was Steven Tyler and Joe Perry together in this one picture, and I wanted to be both of them. And thinking that playing guitar and singing, no band has made it like that. You gotta have a front man. So, and growing up in LA, I always wanted to be in a band. And everyone was looking for singers. So, well, okay, I'll put the guitar down and start singing. And I had to go back and forth with it, Okay, I'm going to sing. It's going to be awesome. I'm singing, at the Saxon show and going, oh, I miss playing guitar. And we need another guitar. So I'll pick the guitar up again and man, I feel this, the riff and this, and okay, we're looking for a singer now, and then we look for a singer, and it's like, dude, the guy's a poser, and oh my god, and I go back and forth, and I end up doing the rhythms because he's not as good and that, and it's like, all right, I'm gonna attempt to do both, and if a singer comes along, then okay. And I was not taking lessons. I was not, I was listening to Lemmy. Lemmy was kind of, okay. He's, as long as you got attitude, you don't have to be able to sing, And that was kind of the attitude around those days, And I did what I could, and my extent of singing was a yeah like that at the end, I'd do a little bump at the end. That's singing, that's my vibrato or something, And slowly over time, obviously being on tour and things, you just get better. The more you sing, you gotta develop a style.
So the record's done, it's finished, and you guys go out on tour with Raven. It's your first real, big tour. Well, how was that? How was it touring with those guys? Obviously, you were fans of theirs, and they, I guess, apparently became fans of yours as well, obviously.
That was insane. It was, 12 guys in a motorhome, again, about half the size of where we are here, and everybody sleeping on top of each other and driving around in the United States in July and August in a vehicle. The main thing I remember about the vehicle was it had no air conditioning.
Perfect.
And there was a little Ryder truck, and this camper, the Raven guys call them the camper, and it was great. It was fucking everything you wanted it to be. It was a bunch of 20, 21-year-old kids on the road, fucking having the time of their lives. I mean, it was, the Raven guys were a little older than we were, and were a little less delinquent than we were. And, they had their fun, but they weren't as nutty as we were. And, fucking just, as soon as the gig was over, then it was just jumped in a vodka bottle and went out looking for girls. I mean, that's pretty much what we did,
I remember being in front of, kind of when it all started, we were getting our road crew together, and the Metallica road dogs, as we called them, a lot of guys in Jersey, because that's where we were. I remember being out in front of this guy's house, getting Kill 'Em All for the first time, the record itself, going, whoa, yeah, looking on the back going, oh, it's a wrong picture or something, or, pulling it out and seeing the black and whites on the sleeve, Cliff's all pissed because the picture was wrong, but just, could not believe, this is our record, look. And then when we hit the road, actually taking records out and throwing them out into the crowd, which was, it was very cool, but, every record that got thrown out got broken and destroyed, but, you're getting the record out there. It's kind of cool. We're on tour with Raven, which is one of these things where, before that we were doing gigs with Venom in, the Paramount Theater there, and kind of those early famous gigs, but going on the road with Raven, it was a blast. Heading across the states from east to west in a Winnebago and a white truck with all our gear in it, and we're sharing the Winnebago with Raven, and we're fighting for the top bunk and all of this, and those guys were a little bigger than us at the time, and especially the drummer, and
how did you understand them? First time I ever met them, I couldn't understand a word they said. They talked 1,000 miles an hour, that crazy accent.
Yeah. Oh, it took some, there was a learning curve, no doubt. And they'd make fun of us, and then we finally got to understand when they're taking the piss and when they're not. We learned the English humor early on, we definitely survived, and they learned quite a bit, I'm sure, as well about America at that time.
No, definitely you could feel. It was a fairly unorthodox tour in that it was. We played a couple shows in the New York area, and then a show in Rochester or something. Then the next gig was in Arkansas or something. We played 4 shows in Arkansas in cities you've never heard of, and it was very it was unusual in its structure because this time, heavy metal band from Newcastle, England, and a bunch of upstarts from from San Francisco. I mean, it wasn't like there was it was a bit like a big market. I mean, we played some cool places and played some cool gig, a great gig in Chicago and so on. But there was also sort of like, Johnny Z found like a, guy in Arkansas. And I swear to you, we woke up, one day and we were like in Arkansas, like standing out I'm not talking about Little Rock. I'm talking about like 100 miles from Little Rock, like on a field, looking, like a piece of concrete in a field with cows around it. This is where, us and Raven are playing tonight. I mean, there was those type of moments also on top of the cool Chicago gigs and so on. So it was nutty.
I remember pulling up in the middle of nowhere, Bald Knob, Arkansas. Bald Knob. It's like, dude, that's an interesting name for a place, man. We pull in the afternoon, and we're playing basically on a cement block in a field. And it's summer, and there's bugs flying, bugs I had never seen in my life before, showing up like, whoa. I think back then Lars was quite a bit more, brainy. I mean, he was, not that he is now, but brainier than I was, and he was collecting, all the reviews and a little more, obviously more worldly, being from Denmark and, traveling all around with his, dad and that world. But, I think he was a little more aware of what was going on. I was really just out having a good time, man. And here we are, and here's another bar. We're going to kick its ass, But I clearly remember Cliff and I being, just, we're going to destroy. Let's go,
So thanks for hanging out and telling us about that wonderful record that came out 25 years ago. You guys did, called Kill 'Em All.
Yeah, it is unbelievable. It's been 25 years. It seems way longer, but way shorter too. And heading in to get on the next record.
Awesome. Well,
never satisfied. All right.